In a small town in Germany, where old streets wind between half-timbered buildings, a story began that would not end. This was a place defined by its quiet rhythms, a community where history felt present in the cobblestones underfoot and the church bells that marked the hours. Life was predictable, comfortable, but beneath that placid surface, a deep and unsettling mystery was about to unfold. It started on a cold night in late autumn. The air was sharp, carrying the first real promise of winter. For most, it was an evening like any other. A stray dog barked at something no one could see, a brief, frantic sound swallowed by the silence. A moment that went unnoticed, but would later be replayed in the minds of investigators, a question mark hanging in the cold night air. A family woke the next morning to a deep quiet, the kind of quiet that feels wrong, a silence that is not peaceful, but empty. One person was gone from their lives. The routines of the morning were broken, replaced by a growing dread. This story is true in its main parts, real fears and questions that don't get answered, questions that haunt a town when someone vanishes without a trace. It's a case many remember, clearly, still spoken of in low voices, as if the mystery itself has ears. The news spread not like a fire, but like a fog, seeping into every home. The town was peaceful. Neighbors greeted neighbors. Children played in the parks. But this changed everything, and brought a shadow that stayed for years. The familiar streets suddenly felt alien. People locked their doors, a habit many had long forgotten. They watched strangers with a new suspicion. Police cars patrolled for weeks, their blue lights painting fleeting patterns on anxious faces behind curtains. The investigation began immediately. They followed every clue, interviewed every potential witness, and scoured every inch of the small apartment left behind. Still, the case stayed painfully open. The file thickened with reports and dead ends. Answers did not come. The missing person, Clara Schmidt, 28. A woman described by all as quietly kind. A bookseller who loved the scent of old paper and the taste of strong coffee. And her little dog, Lotta, who was found waiting by the door. Clara was a fixture in her small world, yet somehow, she had simply ceased to be there. The morning after, worry grew. Clara's sister Anya called around 9, they were meant to meet for coffee. The phone rang and rang, then voicemail. Not normal. Clara always answered or texted back. Calls to their parents. Nothing. They went to her apartment above a flower shop. They knocked. No answer. The door was locked from the inside. A small window was open a little, too narrow for a person, but letting in the morning cold. Inside, Lotta sat perfectly still, watchful, not barking. A locksmith opened the door. The scene felt normal and deeply upsetting. Lotta seemed thin, as if she hadn't eaten. The apartment was tidy, no fight, nothing broken. Her purse, wallet, and keys still inside. If she left on her own, why leave them? Police arrived. A half-drunk cup, cold, smudged, no blood. On the sofa arm, strands of long, dark hair, bagged as evidence, hoping it held an answer. Specialists combed the flat, prints, fibers, photos from every angle. The hair matched Clara, suggesting she'd been home after work. Then, a detail, her watch on the nightstand. The watch had stopped, hands frozen at 1:10 a.m., a possible fixed point in the night. Dead battery? Or broken by force? Another puzzle piece pinned to the board. Money trails began. Clara's card was used 3 times that night. First at 1:25 a.m., 2 kilometers away, then 2 more, each for the maximum amount. The camera showed a hooded figure, identity unclear. Some heard a car speeding near one. Others heard loud voices. Others, only the rain. One elderly man thought he saw a figure heading toward the river. He wasn't sure it was Clara. With talk of a speeding car, police scoured hours of traffic footage from across the region. The witness account was their only lead, a fragile thread in the darkness. They needed to find a vehicle moving away from the crime scene at a high rate of speed, shortly after Clara was last seen. Finally, a breakthrough. A dark sedan blew past a rural checkpoint around 1:15 in the morning. The license plate was obscured by a thick layer of mud, but image enhancement specialists managed to isolate a partial number. It wasn't much, but it was a start. A database search returned a handful of possible matches. One owner, a factory worker in his 30s with no criminal record, was brought in for questioning. He seemed cooperative, if a little unnerved by the sudden police attention. He claimed he'd never known Clara and was simply driving home from a late shift at the industrial park. His alibi seemed plausible. Bank receipts confirmed he'd purchased gasoline and snacks at a 24-hour station along his normal route home. But then investigators examined his car. The tires were thick with the same dark, clay-like mud found near Clara's last known location. He explained he'd taken a detour across a farmer's field to avoid a road closure. It was a possible explanation, but one that was nearly impossible to verify. Police immediately dispatched teams to search the field he described. For hours, handlers and their dogs combed acres of slick, unforgiving ground, hoping to find any discarded evidence. They found nothing. Without any concrete evidence linking him to the crime, the man was released. Investigators were left with strong suspicions but no proof. He was just another question mark in a rapidly growing case file. Meanwhile, the town talked constantly. Missing person posters went up on every available surface. The police tip line rang all day with sightings and theories. A red glove found by a canal. A confused man asking for the station. Dozens of interviews were conducted, but nothing fit. Each lead was a dead end, every potential clue dissolving upon closer inspection. The pieces of the puzzle were all there, but they floated disconnected in a vast sea of uncertainty. With clues thinning, police turned to Clara's digital life. One strange thing stood out. Her last recorded call was at 10:45 p.m., only 20 seconds, from an unsaved number. It traced to a throwaway phone, never used again. After that call, Clara's phone moved, pinging towers toward the industrial edge. The last signal, 1:48 a.m., near a derelict factory by the river. Police searched immediately. A maze of ruins, hours of methodical sweeps, a lone shoe, not Clara's style or size, a burnt match, a small dark blue scarf with a faint elusive smell. Tests later, unclear. Divers spent days in the slow, opaque current. Tires, carts, trash, no sign of Clara. The river, like the case, kept its secrets. A week later, a new confounding clue surfaced. In a rarely used box, a note. She left because she had to. No signature, no date, a partial print, no match in the database. Neat handwriting, could belong to almost anyone. Was it truth, or a cruel trick? Months passed. The case quieted, but family pressed on. Search parties, a reward, interviews on TV and radio. Clara's story spread across Germany. Fresh eyes found a man in a distinctive blue jacket, once 30 seconds behind Clara, once on a bench, across from her building an hour before. His face, unclear, a real, new clue. Police released the description, hoping someone would recognize the jacket. Near the first anniversary, the family hired a private detective, a retired officer known for cold cases. He read journals, checked files, scanned calendars. A receipt, a hotel booked in a northern town, canceled at the last minute, 2 months before she vanished. A tucked note. Meet at the bridge. No name, no time, no explanation. Locals recalled nothing. A dead end. Then, a late witness. She'd seen 2 men by a trash can near the factory that night. One matched the blue jacket, tossing a small wrapped object. The week's trash was long at a distant dump. Still, police searched. Days later, an old metal box emerged. Inside, old-fashioned keys and a folded note with a phone number. Another breadcrumb on a cold path. The number led to a landline at a modest bar, closed years ago. The retired owner didn't know Clara, but the blue jacket jogged his memory. A regular who met friends there. He gave police a name, opening a circle of men, manual workers, no serious records, mostly youthful mistakes. One admitted a short angry argument with Clara, claimed it was a misunderstanding. He apologized. Stories aligned but stayed vague. They were sympathetic, cooperative, guarded. The file thickened. Tests were rerun with newer tools. The scarf's partial DNA matched no one, not even that group. A refined fingerprint search on the note hit a man who died in a car crash 5 years before Clara vanished. The clues conflicted, and the picture blurred again. Years have passed since that rainy night in 2025. The case left a mark on the town that doesn't fade, a collective wound that refuses to heal. The initial storm of media attention has long since subsided, but a quiet, persistent unease settled in its place, changing the very rhythm of daily life. The little bookshop, once the heart of the community, closed its doors for a year. The weight of the tragedy was too much for the original owners. It eventually reopened under new management, but a quiet sadness remained, clinging to the shelves like dust. It's a place of pilgrimage now, as much as a business. The river path, once bustling with families and joggers, felt different. The laughter of children is quieter now. The their parents' hands held a little tighter. The story of Clara's disappearance became a local cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even the safest places can hide an unknowable danger. For Clara's family, life became a quiet, unending watch. An empty chair at the dinner table, birthdays that pass without celebration, a constant state of waiting for a phone call that never comes. They exist in a painful limbo, caught between hope and grief, unable to move forward without answers. But the official investigation never truly stopped. The file remains open, a cold case passed to new teams with access to new technology. During a routine reanalysis, a forensic botanist found something extraordinary. A single, microscopic pollen grain on the sleeve of Clara's coat, a detail missed in the initial sweep. The pollen belonged to a rare, ornamental plant, native to a region far south in the Black Forest. This was the first tangible link to a world outside their small town. Investigators traced the plant to a specialty nursery, where a gardener remembered selling one, to a quiet man in a distinctive blue jacket who paid cash and left no name. Among the gardener's old receipts, a scrap note named a soil supplier, another fragile link in a chain of circumstantial evidence. Today, October 22nd, the anniversary of her disappearance. The investigation is active, but cold. The blue jacket remains a ghost, its owner, a shadow. The town still gathers at each new hint of progress, a community bound by a shared loss. Clara's name is carved in stone at the edge of the river path. A candle is lit each year. Fresh flowers are always there. The question hangs in the air, unspoken but ever present. What secret could be so powerful it erases a person from the world, leaving only whispers behind?